Hello, welcome to Designs for the Edge with Microchip technology. Designs for the Edge is our ongoing live stream series in which we talk about fast-growing markets and the design challenges that systems designers are facing in those markets. We are live streaming today on several platforms. Feel free to share the episode, like the episode, make comments, and ask questions. We'll try to get to some of your questions at the end of the episode. Our topic today is transforming healthcare with smart, connected, and secure devices. I'm your host, Eric Latfelter. Joining me in the studio is Martin Smith. Martin, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Eric. Good to be here.
All right. For our viewers today, would you describe your role at Microchip Technology?
Okay. Well, my role has a lot of different facets to it. Part of it is just, as we lead forward, is how we basically help our medical device design customers, how we serve them better, what's the corporate strategy for that, as well as working with our field people and anybody else who needs it as far as putting together the training, the materials, the concepts and things that help out, as well as visiting with customers and helping them in their journey to use our components, as well as anything we can help with our understanding of the medical device field.
Okay, great. Well, thanks. You're the right person for the topic then. So as we talk about smart, connected, secure telehealth devices and medical devices in general, what does that encompass? It seems pretty broad. Can you tell us about the range of devices that are included in that?
Oh goodness, there is a huge range of devices. We tend to classify them along the lines of things in clinical, things in a new area, well, not so new now, but has been telehealth, remote patient monitoring. We have drug delivery. There's therapeutic devices for physical therapy, things like that. Okay. So there's a broad range of those things. And some of those new areas, for example, we look at the telehealth and remote monitoring, which plays into what we're calling smart medical, or the Internet of Medical Things.
Okay, so particularly with things like the telehealth, can you tell us what's driving that need, in the last few years, and what's going to be driving it going forward?
Yes. A lot has happened over the past couple of decades in transforming healthcare. A lot of new companies or bigger companies also coming in and changing the way healthcare is delivered, but there's also been a lot of need. There's a lot of need out globally, really, as far as helping people get better healthcare. Government agencies, charitable organizations, businesses are all basically looking for ways to get healthcare out to underserved areas, whether it be a developing nation, just an area underserved by medical professionals, or an area that's just so remote you don't normally have a lot of hospital infrastructure and doctors and medical personnel to support that.
Okay.
So the model is called telehealth or remote patient monitoring, where you're able to have, say, a small clinic, or even in the home, but say for a small clinic is one example, where you've got a technician working there, patients can come in, all the data gets measured, their vital signs, that data gets transmitted back to a larger clinic or a hospital where there's more medical professionals to make a diagnosis and recommend treatment. And that data can go back to help the patient and the technician there also in the clinic to basically go forward with that and do the treatment for the disease or the problem that they're working with.
Okay, interesting. So given that we're talking about healthcare too, can you talk a little bit about the regulatory environment and what does that mean for telehealth devices or medical devices in general?
Oh goodness, and there's so much going on in that area. The FDA, of course, is the organization that's the government regulatory body in the United States. There are others throughout the world. Their goal is similar as far as making sure that medical devices are safe, reliable, and so it's a big deal. So the FDA has, for example, 3 different classifications of safety for medical devices: Class 1, Class 2, and Class 3. Most of the electronics we would see for the most part are in the Class 2 range, but there's also devices that are Class 3, which are life support, life critical devices, such as an implantable device, pacemakers or neurostimulators. Either they keep you alive or the quality of life would deteriorate so much without them that it would be dangerous for the patient.
Okay.
So that's kind of where we see the FDA being involved. And there's so much that they regulate, not just for the safety. We're looking at things now that have guidance on security. They have guidance on artificial intelligence.
Sure.
So there's a lot of aspects of what they're involved with.
Sure. So let's talk more about security and artificial intelligence and things, right? So a lot of these devices are really, particularly if they are used for remote monitoring or some kind of telehealth, there's going to be some edge computing, right? These are really edge computing devices. So obviously, if they are remote, if they're connecting to someplace remote, there's an interface, a wireless interface. We need to have security, and that's becoming more important in general. But particularly when you're talking about patient data or medical data, that's got to be even more crucial. So if somebody's designing a telehealth device, how should they think about enabling their device with different levels of security?
Yeah, and it's been a complex question that's been going on for a while. For example, in October 2023, the FDA finalized and started enforcing their cybersecurity guidance document. And so that was to make sure that the devices that are going out over the cloud services or in some way connected, instead of just being local, they are connected but have different levels of security.
Okay.
And the security would be, the medical device design companies would be more accountable to show their plans for how they go forward with security. And it's an important thing. So at Microchip, in order to support that, we're looking at different things like, how do we integrate that?
Right.
One of the things the FDA did in their cybersecurity document was they encouraged designers to use hardware elements.
Okay.
Traditionally speaking, a lot of the security has been software driven, whether it was on the device itself or on the medical devices were on a network with the server, and the security tended to be in the software.
Right.
And so what the FDA has been recommending is that medical device designers use more hardware security elements, meaning being something that's in the device itself, the medical device, whether it be a vital signs monitor for telehealth or whatever the device may be. And so with Microchip, we have different various products where we can integrate those security elements into the microcontroller, or we have separate security elements, and there's various flavors of them, but in different ways to both encrypt and authenticate the data, so it gets sent over and doesn't get what's less likely to be hacked.
Right.
Because we've seen a lot of links, like with Bluetooth has been hacked. If you have a device that goes to Bluetooth to a phone or tablet, there's stories about that getting hacked. There's obviously hacking between the phone and the cloud, even so all over the place. There's different areas, and then even from the cloud back down to, say, a physician's laptop.
Okay.
So there's various areas that are vulnerable. Can be.
Right, and there's hardware and software solutions. So for any particular application, it's probably likely that they're going to use a combination depending on what part of the ecosystem you're trying to protect or authenticate.
Yeah, and you see the security levels, and they've been heightened over time along each part of the way. And so depending on, again, the cloud service and how you're set up with your medical device, if you're doing Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, there's all the various protocols that are already inherent in all those areas. We also look at that as far as heightened security with the security elements. We also have ways to help. If you'd like a model, for example, that says I'm at my medical device and I want everything authenticated at the end with the physician, and it's not, it's not decrypted and authenticated somewhere else. It has to be from basically end to end. There are ways to do that too, to lock down that security more tightly, either at the physician's laptop or even with hardware at the laptop. So even the laptop, it's harder to compromise the security at the laptop if you have some hardware associated with the laptop that's utilizing security elements.
Okay, interesting. So also, as we talk about edge computing and the security that's required, those other letters that are thrown in with edge computing or AI/ML, artificial intelligence and machine learning, is that trend as prominent within the medical device space as it is in so many other markets, like the Internet of Things, for example?
Yeah, definitely so.
Okay.
It's growing, it's big, and again, like I mentioned before, the FDA is involved with that. And so one of the things to mention, well, let's look at the applications first. There's so many in medical. I mean, we've got things that predictive maintenance. We have motors in a lot of medical equipment, like ventilators or other types of respiratory devices.
Okay.
And knowing those motors are going to fail if they look like they're starting to go out of spec or something, it's easier to be able to bring those out and get them worked on as opposed to them failing midstream, which is not good, especially with a ventilator, for example. There's a lot of things in place now to catch that, but predictive maintenance is another level to add onto that, which AI can help with a lot in that area. Patient monitoring is an interesting one as we talk about vital signs measurement with telehealth, for example. There are things such as a person's ECG waveform, which are actually rather unique. They're actually used for security purposes in some applications to make sure it's just the user, just one person. They recognize the ECG waveform and then they can utilize security. But since they're separate, ECG is a good example, The vital signs monitoring can be tailored to each patient, for example, and then knowing that my cardiac waveform is different than yours.
Right.
If it sees something different on mine and will go, oh, there's a problem, it knows my waveform and goes, yeah, okay, you're probably fine.
Yeah.
Whereas on you, if it saw something like that, it would know, no, that's out of out of whack. It's an anomaly. Maybe we need to get you to the doctor. Or
Okay, interesting.
Like
so I think about machine learning in the case of a machine, and it's very simplified description is you're looking for operating conditions that are normal, and you're looking
Right.
for something that's outside of that. So in the case of an EKG or something, you're thinking of the heart as a machine, and these are the normal
analogy.
operating conditions,
Yes.
and what's within those parameters and without of those parameters.
It's a good analogy.
Okay.
It's an interesting area for that.
Yeah, fascinating.
And then one of the biggest areas we're seeing that's been happening early on with the medical field is with medical imaging, such as with MRI, CT scans, and that.
Yep.
Whereas you've got the data gets taken from the MRI, for example, the image. Many times they've been shipped off to a separate server, be post-processed by an AI algorithm, and then that enhances certain areas and helps the radiologist, the doctor basically, to be able to look at them with more accuracy, more efficiency, and getting them done more quickly, which makes it more cost-effective overall. But it's this partnership between the AI and the human to make sure that each helping each other out and verifying to make sure it's okay, make the diagnosis, and then the image in the diagnosis. That information can go to the referring physician, that they can finally work with the patient, knowing the information's been given on the image itself. So that's a big area,
Okay.
happening a lot, and we're seeing a trend where more and more would like to put more hardware elements, getting closer and closer to utilize the AI in the medical device, along with or instead of on the server, and that's a trend that's happening that's very much interesting. And then we talked about FDA before. So the FDA has certain guidelines they've been putting together for the last few years in order to help this trend along, that we still have things going. And there's basically you can submit almost anything, but some of the things they've been a little slow on, or not slow, but more careful about, I guess I would say, was anything that's totally generative, meaning the machine goes off and learns and who knows what's going on.
Right.
So if you have something that has some generative capability, the medical device designer is going to have to be able to show what are the outputs, what are the mostly known outputs we expect, what can the machine not do, things like that. So there's an accountability and a process there.
Right.
The other thing is just totally based on a language, AI language-based model like ChatGPT, for example, or something like that. Those are more, the ChatGPT models, the language-based models are more assistive, more than making the diagnosis. They're more assistive to physicians or whoever's using it to say, okay, this is to help you, this is to do some of the extra work, this is to find something you may have missed. So I kind of liken that to the autopilot on an airline.
Okay.
Whereas the pilot's basically, most of the flight they're on autopilot, but they're still watching over it. There's
Right.
that interaction between the autopilot and the pilot itself, the human pilot. The same thing with the doctors or other medical professionals utilizing the AI as a support, as an assist. It can do a lot. It can be a very great assistant, and that's why there's so much demand for that now.
Yeah.
But there are certain things the FDA wants to make sure are fully laid out, for as far as currently when the medical device is released to market, as well as even long-term as to how are you going to maintain it, how are you going to find anomalies, how are you going to monitor how that device is working properly when it's out in the field.
Okay, interesting. So, wow, this is such a dynamic market. There's so many things going on with the devices. There's a lot of different aspects in this ecosystem. So, how does Microchip make it easier for a designer to get started in this space?
Yeah, we're doing as much as we can, and that's one of the fun parts about my job is more and more how do we better support our medical customers. You see in the slide, we kind of have a bottom-up approach there. We start with our compute engines. We make all kinds of microcontrollers and microprocessors. And those are our basic compute engines. We put some of those on system-on-module boards, system-in-package boards to make that design more easy for our customers. And then, of course, there's development boards that they utilize along the way to actually do the development, both the firmware and hardware development on the system. The next layer up, of course, would be other supporting components to the compute engine, which would be like your analog and signal chain, processing signals from sensors. You process like a vital sign signal. You measure and process that, and then it goes into the ADD and the microcontroller. Connectivity is important. We talked about Bluetooth and Wi-Fi as wireless. There are systems out there using Ethernet and other wired connectivities too that are important. Looking at the overall package, how do you connect? Even some security measures within data centers for connected and wired connectivity. And then I mentioned hardware security, of course. How do we do that, especially for these wireless examples that are going out to the cloud? And building on there, of course, is operating system support, middleware, things like that. Again, we supply that. We do things with partners. We've got things lined up as far as supporting our clients. Software security is still an issue and used somewhat. The various things we can help customers or work with third parties, get them lined up with third parties to help with that. We talked about artificial intelligence and machine learning. We have the development tools for that. Our microcontrollers and microprocessors use a tool called MPLab ML for machine learning. Our FPGAs have a tool called Vector Blocks.
Okay.
And so again, helping that development along is a full area to set up all the AI necessary to start the learning process for the models. And then overall support, whether it be our solutions, our support, software stacks for support, our expertise in security, for example, even medical expertise, one of the areas I'm involved with, a lot of that. So basically, it's from end to end, so the customer, basically those who design the medical devices, can focus on what they do best and what they need to do, writing their own application software, doing the an overall industrial design, packaging and such around the device, and their certification with the FDA, among other things. But we try and say we're trying to do a lot of the heavy lifting for them, and then they're able to go ahead and do what they do best.
Awesome. So our devices and software end up in a lot of different medical devices. Can you let's circle back to the market and say, can you talk about again the breadth of devices? Are there a couple examples you could give of things that are just particularly interesting or particularly fascinating to you?
Oh yeah, that's the thing. There's such a variety here too. I just really love it. We've been doing this for a lot of years, since Microchip's inception in the early 90s, but particularly we focused starting in 2006 to have medical specialists like myself to be able to support our field and our customers. And so we've been doing this for a long time. We've been doing it with thousands of medical customers, and there's a breadth of product across. We're looking at things that are basically in the clinic and hospital, in the home, like the telehealth we were talking about, or remote clinics and things like that. We have drug delivery devices, in clinic and hospital. We even have implantable devices. We do actually work with the class 3, customers who make class 3 devices like the implantables, neurostimulators, pacemakers, things like that. And so there's a broad range where our products are in all of these things. You're seeing the list on the right now. These are products that are in design or in production with our customers. So we covered the gamut pretty well. If they're going to, if our customers are going to design it, we've had a hand in somewhere along the line with that type of device.
Right. Interesting. A lot going on. So Martin, thank you so much for that overview.
Oh, you're welcome.
Let's take a break there. Let's see if we have questions from our viewers today. Lost my feed. I'm going to go to some of the questions that were submitted earlier. You mentioned that Microchip supports FDA Class 3 designs. We were just talking about that. It has been a challenge for me to find suppliers that do that. Can you tell me more about that?
Okay. Yeah, I did mention some of that, but we will work with that. We have the green light from management on down that we will work with customers with no restrictions. So if you want to, we worked obviously with a lot of major customers who do the implantable type things, for example, for Class 3 designs, or like heart pumps, things like that, life-saving, life-critical type devices. And so we can work with them as far as how we can free silicon, for example, for them, special part number, how we work with our fabs and getting things really lined up so they have a good feeling about that.
Right.
And that kind of, again, a lot of years doing that, a lot of experience, as I mentioned before. And it's been fun to see that, because some of these devices, when they, you get to hear about how they get used with patients, it's really kind of satisfying to see how well people get helped. Quality of life, keeping them alive or improving their quality of life. So it's a great to know.
Sure. So we've got site control and documentation, and longevity, and minimizing changes, and all those things.
Yes, and we have a great record for quality. Our medical customers, when they come to audit our factories, we pass with flying colors.
Yeah. Okay. Great. All right. Second question. So we talked about also a little bit about this, but has the FDA been certifying AI medical devices? If so, what do we need to know about what they're looking for?
Yeah, and that's pretty much as I mentioned before. In expanding, the FDA will be allowing as things happen, but again, keeping in mind that there's got to be a lot of accountability throughout the chain, pre-market, and going to market and post-market, as far as how things are accountable. So again, assistive, supportive type technologies, using for the medical professional to work in tandem with or in partnership with, if you will, as far as working with the AI. Those are the things that have been approved that I've seen so far, or things that are pending in the FDA's queue. So those are the things to really be focusing on. And again, of course, those who are familiar with it can always go to fda.gov and learn more about that.
Okay.
And then in our site, we don't talk so much about FDA, but we have a lot of support. Since I'm thinking about websites, is microchip.com/medical or microchip.com/smartmedical.
Okay.
To learn more about Microchip also in that respect.
Okay, great. Okay, so last question. How should I think about hardware versus software when I'm partitioning a security for a telehealth device?
Oh, it depends.
Yeah.
That's definitely the case. It'll depend on the application. How is it, is it on an internal network first before it goes out somewhere or something along those lines?
Okay.
But again, that transition from more software-based to more hardware-based, again, is important. The FDA is encouraging that. There are some reasons we can see along those lines. First off is if you look at it, part of the beauty of an edge-based device, which most medical devices kind of historically are anyway, and they're becoming more so, but you're distributing that security load. So if more of the security is local to that device, it's a lot easier to control it, harder to be hacked, and you're sending less data out. If more and more data, if it's used real time, doesn't need to go over the cloud.
Okay.
It's used for the patient feedback or the technician feedback.
Yep.
So again, that's one good reason. Overall, again, more hardware elements in the chain, utilizing higher levels of security protocol is real important too. Again, more difficult to hack if it's in the hardware, and that makes a big difference as far as, plus it actually really is more cost effective. The hardware tends to be a little better as far as long-term maintenance versus the software utilized. Again, depends on the application, but again, pushing towards hardware elements like we're using a Microchip has really been a boon as more customers start making that move towards that.
Okay. Wow, a lot to keep track of.
Yeah.
So Martin, again, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with that.
Thank you.
To our viewers, thank you for taking some time out of your day to be with us. This is our second season of Designs for the Edge. We have one more episode. Next week, we will be talking about time-sensitive networking in communications systems. Please visit us at microchip.com/designsfortheedge. You can sign up for notifications about our next season, and you can also peruse our previously recorded sessions on YouTube. Thanks for joining us. See you next time.